Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Grieco here again with another episode of Deep Listens. I am joined this week by Chris ZombiePie Redacted. Hello.
Hello.
And we are talking about Final Fantasy VII. You can tell by the excitement in his voice.
No, I want that. You promised me we would talk about anime visual novels again, or finally. You've been promising this forever, and now's the time to talk about cat girls and anime visual novels and pornographic content to our heart's delight.
Final Fantasy VII has some of that. It has a cat boy. A little robot cat boy. Kate Sith. He rides a Moogle.
Oh, God.
He's got a crown. He's naked.
Oh, God. You know, let's just remind the viewers why we're doing multiple podcasts. You said, in theory, by splitting the podcast up, we wouldn't have to do, like, something that was this, like, 3.5-hour massive undertaking.
That was the goal.
I think we're going to end up doing...
Way more,
but spanned over multiple episodes.
So this is a lot of repetition instead of like a tantric podcast that's like 6 hours of nonsense.
Of just aimless
ramblings.
But
I like to think that these are more focused than that would have been. We get to really dive deep. The deepest of listens.
It's the deepest listen we've done yet.
Speaking of which, if you want to get in touch with the podcast and give any feedback to me or ZombiePie, because I can always forward him any suggestions. If he's playing the game the wrong way, which he's playing the game the wrong way. You can go ahead at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com, or deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got comment sections. I will relay any and all messages, and I will read emails live if you want to berate him. We do have a comment. He does post blogs on giantbomb.com, and people berate him there, but why not just from all angles?
Or send me an email at idon'tgiveashit@comcast.net.
All right. I don't give a shit at Jim's House of Nasty.xxx. All right, so to start off our discussion of Final Fantasy VII this week, I wanted to start by, since I've actually caught up to you 100% of the way. So
yeah, this was a weird thing that I actually got further in the game than you.
Yeah, I was playing Jotun Jotun?
Oh, yes, the turn-based strategy game from Kickstarter.
It's not a turn-based strategy game, and I don't think I don't know that it was from Kickstarter either, but
I'm thinking of the Banner Saga.
Yes, it is not the Banner Saga. Though it also has hand-drawn Norse-inspired art. But I was playing that for a different podcast that should already be up if you're listening to this, but that delayed me from playing Final Fantasy VII. So I've actually now caught up to you, which means that there were some segments during the last podcast that I didn't have the freshest memories, and the one that jumps out to me the most is the Dine section.
Yes, I remember you stating that you were going from memory for my discussion about Dine and Barrett.
Yes, in Coral, and that segment is awesome.
I know! It's so good!
Yes, it is. I did not anticipate it to hit so hard again. I didn't expect the dialogue to be so good. They basically abandon Barrett's accent
and previous characterization.
Yeah.
But the weird caveat to that is it goes back to that accent and type of dialogue immediately after it, which is not great.
It makes the part where Barrett is going, "I'm not the thinking guy, you guys figure it out." It makes it even more glaring when he's having these deep philosophical discussions with Dine about whether he should carry on his life or not.
That aside,
it's awesome.
It's still an awesome scene.
Yes.
All the parts of it come together. The music works in tandem to the tone, like I talked about on the blog. It crescendos where it's appropriate. It is dramatic. You feel for Barrett and you feel for both sides. You understand where Dine's coming from, even though he's like a murderer and he's trying to fill this void in his life. And you understand with Barrett, there's a real sense of regret that he has to fight Dine. You understand both sides of the conflict.
For some reason, I at least felt like there's some Dine could have some kind of redemption, even though he has murdered a whole bunch of people. and you feel like, well, if Barrett just says the right thing, or if he convinces him, if this one-on-one fight ends well, maybe Dine will be reparable in some way, but he ends up taking his own life,
which is
heavy.
I mean, credit goes to the writing staff and the people who created this game. I applaud them for committing to that moment to where Dine commits suicide.
Yep. And
in 1997?
Yeah.
1997, they took the risk of having a character commit suicide.
Yep. And he's got a gun arm.
Yeah.
And he leaves an orphaned daughter who is adopted by his best friend who he tried to murder. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on in that sequence, and then you are right, you go immediately to the gold saucer, and Barrett's like, what the fuck? What are we doing here? I'd killed my friend, and now we're going to play slot machines and bet on chocobos. What the heck? I'm leaving. I'm going to the hotel, and I'm sitting this one out.
And worse yet, in order to get out of the prison, you actually have to do the chocobo racing, which is a whole can of worms.
Yep.
Which leads us to the next topic you wanted to talk about.
Yes, the minigames are terrible. I forgot how bad Junon, all of those minigames are. I forgot the CPR gauge. Mm-hmm. I forgot the dolphin. I forgot all of the mini games in the Gold Saucer. Did you play the Mog House?
No.
Okay, Mog House is the easiest 30 GP you can get. It's like 100 gil, and all you do is feed a Moogle Koopo nuts, because they're cuckoo for Koopo nuts. And if you feed them enough, this Moogle will fly. And you have to do this 3 different times, and it's very obvious and slow as to when it's fed enough that it will fly. It takes probably 5 to 10 minutes because the dialogue is so slow, and I don't think you can mash through it.
The hell with that. I'll just get my GP from Chocobo Racing if it really comes to shove.
It's terrible. It's so bad. Then
there's the marching stuff. The marching
stuff
stuff is bad. Oh my God. I had someone contact me like, hey man, just wanted to tell you, I've 100%ed Final Fantasy VII multiple times. I still am not good at the marching sequence. It's not your fault. Everyone hates it.
So you did better than me in the marching sequence, because when I was done with it, the studio producer said, let's send that guy a bomb for how bad he did, and I got a grenade.
I got 6 potions because I did it real quick. I wasn't doing it very well, and I just moved on. And then immediately after that, you have basically what is Simon Says. Yeah. How did you do on that?
That one I did perfectly.
I got the Force Stealer on... Yep. I got the sword for that one.
Yep, that's the
Took me multiple tries, admittedly, but...
I got it on my first try.
Yeah.
But I was fine with getting a grenade. I thought it was funny enough that that's fine. But there are so many different individual one-off minigames that are all so throwaway. Like, why am I using a CPR gauge for... It's like 5 minutes.
A one-off character, and then that one-off character helps me get up to the top of the aircraft carrier. The aircraft carrier? Or basically, it's the top of Junon.
Yep.
With a dolphin.
Yep. And then the dolphin's kind of a minigame. It's... Oh, my goodness.
I really want to see how they make that sequence work on the HD remix.
Yes, these are the sequences that when they get the second bite at the apple, I'm just hoping that they just give up on all those little one-off mechanics and just say, well, what if it was a cutscene? Or something else. Just make it play differently.
Put a flight of stairs that I can climb up next time.
Oh, no, make him go on the dolphin, but don't make me like pixel hunt for where and what shadow I need to be on for the dolphin to shoot me into the... It's not great. That's
Chocobo
not great.
Racing.
Chocobo Racing is fine.
Racing.
I won my Chocobo race without even using the recharging stamina thing because the computer... They give you a good Chocobo and the computer...
They give you a good Chocobo. Admittedly, the one thing I would say about the Chocobo Racing is it's appropriately placed. There's a reason for you to do the Chocobo Racing because it's your only way out of the Coral prison.
Yep.
It's just not good.
It's fun. It's better when you have better Chocobos.
It's still you going through... The camera is shit.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
environments are insane.
There's another. There is actually another racetrack when you get higher level chocobos, and that other racetrack I think is better than the one that you've seen.
You're just going fast enough to where you use your stamina in an appropriate fashion.
It's not hard or like engaging. I just think that visually the next environment you're going to see is a little bit more visually interesting, and that's enough. That's enough for me.
Do you plan on doing a lot of chocobo racing?
No, I'm going to not do it at all because I've done the whole thing. I've gotten Knights of the Round.
I'm going
before.
to try to get Knights of the Round. I think I need to at least try.
Maybe I'll think about it. We'll see.
If I do it, you got to do it. That's my rule.
Is that how it works?
No, of course not. If I do something stupid, you don't actually have to do something stupid.
Because I didn't sell all of my ethers.
Oh, God.
That was your fault.
Oh.
You did that to you.
For those that don't know, I noticed which store has the HP Plus materia. I don't know.
Cosmo Canyon.
Cosmo Canyon has a salesperson that sells HP Plus, which is actually a pretty good materia. It's useful.
I own
especially
none of them. I should have at least one.
Especially with some of the later boss battles during the second part of Disc 1, the HP Plus materia is highly useful. It's just, in order to get that, I did some stupid things. I sold weapons that I probably shouldn't have sold. I sold bangles, which I needed to get rid of, all of those carbon bangles and the bronze bangles. That was okay. Then I started selling my items, and I didn't realize that ether was just 1 gil, and so useful that you shouldn't sell it at all.
You goofed.
I goofed. I should have just sold those partially leveled up all materias.
You shouldn't sell those yet. Wait till you master them. They are the most expensive thing in the game when you sell them, and they level up pretty quickly.
What are tents? I don't understand how to use tents.
So when you're on the world map or you're on a save point, you can use a tent, and it will fully heal everyone as if you went rested at an inn.
Oh, okay.
So full health, full MP.
I should start using those.
I've used one just because I forgot that there was going to be like a save, like a inn shortly thereafter, so it was completely wasted, but they're useful every now and then.
Something that I remember I talked about a lot that you didn't really talk about. How do you feel about the random encounter system in 7?
I don't mind it for the most part. My big problem is some of the dungeons, like for example, Cosmo Canyon. The encounter rate is high in that location, and it's kind of interesting because the limit break system, I don't know if you've noticed how your limit breaks level up. So when you get your first limit break, to unlock the second level of that limit level, so there's level 1, 2, 3, and 4, you get your first level 1, so like Braver first Cloud, and then when you use that, I think like 15 times or 20 times, it unlocks Cross Slash. And then level 2 is Blade Beam. You get Blade Beam not by continuing to use your limit break, but instead by killing enemies. So when you kill X number of enemies, that unlocks level 2.
Now, does that mean like overall killing enemies or enemies that I've killed with Cloud? Because that was the thing. Okay,
with Cloud. So what that means is when you get forced to use characters that are not going to be in like your final party, you're wasting kills, essentially. Like every...
Yeah, that was the thing that I have noticed is I've been picking and choosing who I use in order to hopefully level them up and make them my characters that I go to.
Yeah.
That's not going to help me at all with the later portions of the game. Aren't you forced to use certain characters no matter what in the later portion of Final Fantasy VII?
You do occasionally, but it's not so... Usually, at least 1 or 2 of the characters that you want to use will be available to you.
Okay.
You won't have by the end of the game, you'll have the 3 you want, but here and there, you'll get some dictation.
Then you wanted to talk about Gongaga and Cosmo Canyon. Yeah,
I forgot how much foreshadowing they do with Zack, and how... I guess impactful it is when you go there and Eris and Tifa, depending on which of them you have in your party, will react to Zack's name. I thought that location, also just a location where they put a power plant,
that's blown up.
As you keep going through the world and start seeing the way that Shinra has impacted all of these places in different and somewhat grounded ways, I think the evil power company element of Shinra starts becoming less cartoonish.
And more nefarious.
Yeah, and more actually nefarious. Like, the less you see Shinra people, the more nefarious Shinra becomes, because they're clowns when you're in Midgar. But...
and that's so bad, because the game still, even at this point, oscillates between cartoony Shinra and the dour and serious side of Shinra.
Like, when we talk about Rocket Town and
Palmer, oh god, that's the worst.
Yeah. So Hojo in Costa del Sol, like, all of those moments, it makes you feel like Shinra's freaking stupid. But then when you go to Coral, and like North Coral, and it turns out they built a power plant, and then when something happened to it, they killed everyone. Or when you go to Gongaga and they build a power plant right next to Gongaga, and it blows up because they built it poorly, and you see the graveyard right out front of the city. Like, you can't get into Gongaga without passing the graveyard where all the people who died from the explosion were. You start feeling this nefarious impact of Shinra in a way that none of the characters convey at all. Like, even the Turks are, like, weird rivals instead of serious threats.
The one thing I'd say about Gongaga is I feel, and I'm trying to apply actual logic to a video game, is the people of Gongaga engage in the naturalistic fallacy, where instead of living with electricity and modern-day conveniences, they're talking about how, we've decided to live a naturalistic life to where now we have no electricity. We can do it without it. And it's like, is that practical or feasible for Midgar? The people of Midgar?
I mean, that city doesn't exist without the power plants. It's very clear. But also, the power plants were the whole reason that city came into existence in the first place, so maybe those people shouldn't be living there. These are these questions, but Gongaga and those other, like Nibelheim when you get there, all of these different places that you see these power plants spring up really makes it hit home that Shinra is having a larger impact beyond the Blade Runner-esque Midgar section. And I thought that was really impactful. And so with that, I think we should probably start moving towards new stuff.
You've already said you didn't like the Dungeon of Cosmo Canyon.
Yeah, it sucked. I hated it a lot. I didn't like that I had to use Red 13 because I'm never going to use him again if I can help it. So he got leveled.
The observatory scene is actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I like Bugenhagen messing with his holograms and all that's pseudoscience stuff. But it just really upset me having to use Red 13 when he is probably one of my least favorite characters, and those were levels that Yuffie or Tifa could have been getting. But what can you do? Everyone's got to have their character moments. So with that, Nibelheim. I told you, just get to Nibelheim. Turns out I was wrong. They don't reveal.
No, yeah. It turns out that there's really not a lot to Nibelheim, other than getting Vincent and engaging with the weird robe dudes, which I'm slightly confused who the weird robe dudes are. Are they like the test subjects from the capsules that you had from the reactor, or are they like clone babies? Are they the actual soldiers? Maybe it's something that I shouldn't know the answer quite yet because I'm still confused.
You shouldn't know the game hasn't told you yet who they are, but I found Nibelheim. The moment where the Nibelheim really worked for me is when you go up to I think it's the attic of one of the buildings, and you find two clones that are like these little teensy little things, or they're two robed people.
Yeah, one is bigger than the other.
Or they're like, but they're both teensy.
Okay, yeah.
They both look like either children or some sort of half creature. I don't even know what they are. And Cloud, like up until then, Cloud's like, "Who are you? What are these things?" And they talk back, and then you get an item usually. But with those ones, Cloud just like shakes his head and just doesn't even know what to do with himself. And all of a sudden, that almost felt a little misty to me.
Misty as in it made you cry, or misty as in the game's
Mist.
not? Oh, okay.
Mist or ribbon. Like these weird figures in this. I mean, it's not an abandoned town, but it's lifeless. Like everyone should be welcoming to Cloud. it's his hometown.
Well, is it really? Because when you go to the hotel, when you engage with the actual citizens of Nibelheim, they're like, "Who the hell are you?"
Yeah, and they do that. Tifa was in my party, and they do that with Tifa as well. So something's up with Nibelheim, but...
And like I said, one thing that I like about Final Fantasy VII is it plays its cards out with a pace to where the biggest problem I had with 8 is when Final Fantasy VIII decided to play its cards out, it would show all of its cards. Like you said, it made it rain with its cards all at once.
Fat stacks.
And at least Final Fantasy VII has the common courtesy to build up and have foreshadowing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Its foreshadowing is far more deliberate than 8, I feel like, because it's actually building up this mystery. Who is Cloud? Who is Zack?
Yeah.
8, what does it mean to be an ancient for Eris?
It answers questions you didn't have more than 7. 7 kind of sets up things that you feel like, what are these robed figures? What's Sephiroth up to? What are the ancients? Who is why is Cloud hearing these voices? And there's all these moments where you're like, okay, this game's going to get somewhere. And then with 8, you'll sometimes get flashbacks to like Squall crying.
As a child, and those scenes are terrible.
They suck.
He's insufferable even as a child.
And they don't...
You
don't feel like that's a secret.
You don't want to learn more about Squall because he's insufferable then, he's insufferable now.
And the only thing that I think that they successfully deliver on is Laguna.
Or if you just want your crazy anime quotients, yes, Final Fantasy VIII is the game to play.
That it is. So Nibelheim, I really enjoyed the mansion. I hated the encounter rate being so high in the mansion.
Oh my god, it's soul-crushing because those enemies in the mansion are not easy. There's 2 enemies that really are the biggest pain. There's the pendulum guys, to where Cloud's physical attack does not impact them. You have to use ranged characters. Mostly. Tifa works. I could never get Cloud to actually physically attack the pendulum guys.
That they, I think, might just have a high evasion rate. I was able to hit them successfully with all my characters, but...
And even then, they have a huge amount of HP.
Yeah, they have a lot of HP. My central problem with them is that they have... You can knock them off their pendulum, off their chain, and the animation for them falling off and then getting back on takes like
quick.
20... It's like 20 seconds. It's quick for them to do it, but the animation itself takes like 20 seconds every time they do it, and I knock them down sometimes 2 or 3 times in a fight. And so this fight that should take a minute total, all of a sudden takes 3, and I'm like, well, this is going to be the next encounter I see, isn't it?
And then there were multiple times to where it's like, well, my MP and HP's boned. I guess I'll just leave and go to the hotel and boost up before coming back.
Yeah, and then
you gotta...
There's
the
mirrors.
Pumpkin ghosts. No, the mirrors. I felt the mirrors were way worse than the pumpkin ghosts. The pumpkin ghosts would hit you with status ailments.
They put you to sleep, and that made the fights take long too. Yeah, so I just started just summoning things on them and insta-killing everything.
Yeah.
That was my go-to.
Nibelheim has one of the weirdest scenes. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. There's plenty of weirder scenes. You go down and you engage in Sephiroth, and what does he do? He's like, I hate you, and he throws a materia at you. It's so funny.
It's called Destruct, and he just hits you in the head with it.
He just throws this materia, this glowing green materia at you. It hits Cloud in the face, and he doubles back. It's like
and then he flies away like a spaceship.
He flies away. It's like, what is this, a cartoon?
Yeah, basically.
It's a dumb scene.
He Vegetas away.
But the biggest problem that I have with that whole encounter with Sephiroth is he's like, go to Mount Nibel and you will find out more. And then you go to Mount Nibel and you don't learn shit.
Yeah, pretty much. You fight a monster. But you get Vincent.
But Vincent doesn't actually... He's not at the... We're not at a point in the story where you get to learn more about Vincent.
Not yet, but he tells you he's a Turk.
He tells you where he's a Turk. He's got this lady friend, Lucretia.
Who he calls Sephiroth's mother.
Mm.
And that he's sleeping in the Shinra mansion as punishment.
Now, privately, we've talked about this, but I feel like we need to talk about this on this podcast. I think the fact that Vincent and Yuffie are hidden and secret characters is complete and total crap.
I agree.
Especially with Vincent, because Vincent plays a huge role in filling in the gaps of the story. Yuffie, I like Yuffie. I think this is a debate we're going to have in a little bit. I like Yuffie. I like the environment that Yuffie engages in. I feel that environment is interesting to learn more about. Vincent should not be a secret character.
No, they made a sequel to Final Fantasy VII starring Vincent because Vincent's so integral to this story. And also people love his emo hair and his metal arm.
And not only that, if you're going to have Vincent be a secret character, I don't know, make it easier than what it was actually done in the game to get him.
Yeah. That boss is no joke.
No, it's not only that, it's solving that safe puzzle, like opening the safe.
Yep. Nice thing for me, my guidebook had the safe code in it.
If you tried to legitimately solve the safe, you got to go to all these different places in the mansion. You have to engage in all these extra random encounter battles, which we talked about. Those pumpkin ghosts put you to sleep. Those battles go on for double the length that they need to. There's the pendulum guys. There's the mirrors. There's the game here is such a pain in the butt.
Yep, and it's a big environment too. Like,
oh yeah, and all the parts of the mansion that you have to go to are all spread out.
Mm-hmm. And then you have to go down the stairs where there are encounters. Then you have to go in the basement. The basement has the yin and yang are those zombies.
Were they a boss or
no? That's just an enemy you can run into. But that thing's fucked.
That thing takes forever to fight, and he animates real weird, and his animation is super long.
Yes.
What was the boss that you fought when you opened the safe? Because
Lost
that guy was
Number?
no
I think
joke.
That's what it's called. Yeah, I think it's called Lost Number. It's another monster where half of it does physical damage, half of it does magic damage.
And if you defeat it or deal half of its HP with magic, then it defaults to the magic side. And if you
if you kill if the hit that knocks it into, I think, 50% health or 25% health was a magic attack, it becomes the physical half.
Yeah.
And then vice versa.
And one of those halves is harder than the other. I found the magical half to be way more difficult than the physical half.
I ended up with the physical half, so I killed him on my first try, so it wasn't that bad. But I was missing. I'm starting to regret not buying any HP plus materia. But that section's cool. I think once you get Vincent, he fills in some blanks.
He shouldn't be hidden. He shouldn't
not at
be
all.
hidden with such a soul-crushing encounter. He fills in blanks in the story. Eventually, you learn a lot. I'm just going based off of what people have told me. This should not be hidden. This should not be obscured. He should not be secret to players. The idea that you could play the entire game and not have him added to your party, it's kind of crazy. It is crazy.
Not to mention, how have you liked him as a character? Now that you have, I guess let's get through all the characters and then we'll see what you're rolling with. So then you go to Rocket Town.
Mm-hmm.
Rocket Town, I think, is cool. You meet Sid.
I find the environment of Rocket Town to be one of the second most interesting environment that we've been in. Of course, the first being Midgar.
Mm-hmm.
Rocket Town's got a history, and I liked learning about the history of Rocket Town. I liked how Sid was and is depicted as being the most uncouth character of the entire party.
Yep.
I find the way that he treats his female companion to be deeply troubling and disrespectful. Yep. Is this the other morally offensive scene that you possibly suggested on episode 1?
No, we're gonna get to that in Wutai.
Ah, yes, you're right. I find the way that he treats his female companion to be really troubling and just kind of gross.
Yeah, Sid's a misogynist. It seems.
But he has one of the best lines of dialogue in the entire game. sit your ass down and drink your goddamn tea.
Yes.
Such a good line. They knew exactly what they wanted to do with this character. And more importantly, his backstory is great. I really liked learning about Sid. I hope that the payoff for his character is fulfilling because he's a character, when you learn about him, you want to see him live his dream. Which is go to space and become a pilot.
He kind of his dream tramples over Shera's life in a way. But you do root for him. You do root for him despite that fact.
The only thing I will say, I think they probably should have introduced him earlier because he's underleveled. I haven't used him in combat a lot, and I don't feel motivated to use him in combat a lot.
Yeah, by this point, you're in so deep with the characters that you've picked, and they are not outclassed by the new people in a meaningful way, that you're incentivized due to the limit break leveling system to kind of stick with those characters, because otherwise you have to put in the work to keep leveling up limit breaks, and limit breaks are so strong.
And the benefit to that is you do get invested with the characters that you roll with. Every person who plays Final Fantasy VII has a different trio that they sided with. Most people, 99% of people will have Cloud in their party because you have to have Cloud in your party. But the other two members of every person gives a different answer. And the reason is that the game does incentivize and motivate you to get invested with a small number of those characters.
I mean, every character in the game gets a character moment. They all have a location that applies to their lives. They all get a sequence where they are the star. And I think that's...
Some really are better than others, though.
Of course.
And you know what? At least Final Fantasy VII versus 8, coming back from 8... at least 7 has the ability to really have different characters that feel like their own characters. The problem with 8 is practically everyone is a comic relief character. And especially with Kistis, to where she loses her character trait of being the second go-to leader, and she also becomes a comic relief character. And Irving becomes a comic relief character. Everyone in your goddamn party in 8 is comic relief, and they have no reason to be with Squall. And Squall's kind of the only other person. Maybe Renoa, but even she's a bit of a comic relief character. There's so much redundancy in the cast of 8. That's not to say that I don't feel like there's redundancy in 7. I feel like there's too many people who are like the naturalistic environmentalist, but there are enough differences between those that I feel like I can really move myself towards 3 or 4 characters and get invested emotionally with them.
Sure, and I think that because 7 puts in the work with all of them, for example, you go to Rocket Town and Sid, you get his backstory, you get the backstory of Red 13. It slowly unfurls each of these characters and forces you to examine their history, use them. Like in combat, you usually are forced into using them. And then also you get the sense of where they fit in the world and why they are on this quest with you in a way that 8 never does. Like there are moments where Zell has to be the party leader, but it's not super meaningful.
And nominating him to be the party leader feels totally unearned.
Yep. And it doesn't reveal more about his character. It's like, hey, remember that spaz that you met at the beginning of the game? He's still a spaz. You go up to his room at one point, and
he throws a hissy fit.
I guess a little bit. You meet his mom, and you still don't really get a better sense of who he is.
No, you don't.
Like, you go to Trabia, and you learn a little bit about who Selphie is, but it turns out she was kind of a happy-go-lucky person before, and then she's continued to be that. Irvine was always kind of a womanizer, and he's continued to be. Why? Who knows? Because he is.
I feel as if the characters of 7 are not walking tropes.
Yes, quite the same way as 8 are. But in Rocket Town, you do get a walking trope in Palmer.
Oh, man. That battle is dumb.
It's the stupidest.
It's not hard. It's like a timer.
He asks for tea with lard, and then he gets hit by a truck.
So, for those that haven't played 7, well, if you haven't played 7, you shouldn't be listening to this podcast. You should actually...
This is part 2. What are you doing?
Rocket Town is revealed to be this depressed town that invested heavily into engaging in Shinra's space program. And Sid was going to be the pilot of the space program. Shinra was pumping in money like crazy to build this space program. And unfortunately for Sid, Shara noticed that there was a flaw in the oxygen tanks, and she was in the bottom of the ship. Although, when you watch the scene, the ship does, ignite its fuel, so how she's still alive, I don't quite understand.
I think she was in the rocket, and it was just a section of the rocket that would have heated up. So,
because Sid is not a horrible, mean bastard, he calls off the mission, and it's revealed that basically they can't continue the space program for another 6 months because they have to rebuild everything and re-engage everything. And so eventually Shinra cancels the space program, and you are essentially going into this town with this decrepit rocket ship in the middle of the town.
And that's it. That's the only thing in the entire town, basically.
It's the only thing in the entire town, and it does show how Shinra don't give a shit about the people. When it doesn't get any money out of something, it leaves the people behind.
And as if the game needed any more evidence after you went to Gongaga and North Coral, and I guess Calm is the only town. Calm and I guess Cosmo Canyon, but Cosmo Canyon is a radical rejection of everything Shinra represents. But Calm is the only town that seems to not have any Shinra stink on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, does Bone Village count?
I mean, it's barely a town.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But that's later on.
Yeah. But no, Rocket Town is great, and then eventually Shinra comes back, Sid's excited, and I thought that, man, this is going to be interesting. Having someone who actually has maybe slight pro-Shinra feelings would be interesting to have in the party, and his bias is solely addressed and redressed and engaged with the other members of the party. But no, Sid hates Shinra.
Yeah, they shot his shit. They just came. They didn't want to restart the space program. Well, his only allegiance to the Shinra is out of his love of going to space. So if they were not the purse to make that happen, he would never be involved with them at all. And then his other problem is they've taken his... Turns out you learn that the airship they have is his airship. They took it. They wanted to take his tiny plane also, the tiny Bronco.
They've basically stolen everything that Sid cares about.
Yes.
And he's like...
Just like everyone else.
Yeah. Whereas Shinra has taken their environment and the lives of their loved ones, they are taking the physical goods that makes Sid feel happy or brings pleasure to Sid. And so they're literally stealing his dreams repeatedly. And of course...
So when the tiny Bronco gets shot down and they ask him, so you want to come with us? He's like, fuck it. I guess. Sure.
But... before we move on, that Palmer battle...
It's so terrible.
Oh, it's so bad. Palmer isn't even hard to fight. He goofs off. His main attack is to taunt you.
He's got the Mako gun.
He's got the Mako gun, but he only uses it twice in battle. And it doesn't even do any major damage to you.
You get a sweet bracelet when you kill him.
You get a sweet bracelet, but again, it's... the inconsistent characterization of Shinra. They were a awesome threat that's ruining the environment to a troop of goofy characters that are so incompetent at their jobs that you question how they took over the world in the first place.
Yeah, it's that weird dichotomy where the enemy needs to be both all-powerful and brazenly incompetent at the same time, depending on what the scene needs.
It's another example of that cognitive dissonance that we've been talking about for a while now. I mean, we had Sid talk about and discuss and extrapolate how his dreams and aspirations have been essentially taken away from him. And then we juxtapose to Palmer shaking his ass in front of your face.
Yep. Final Fantasy VII is a lot. It is tonal dissonance.game.
Still not as bad as 8.
I mean, 8 had a tone, and it was insanity. It was a wild insanity.
Oh, I don't know, man.
Remember when they had a concert? Remember when they went to space?
The game's story literally stops.
I'm sorry.
It just stops.
We can talk about 8 all day. We have, in fact.
So eventually,
you go to Wutai.
Well,
we went to Wutai.
Do you like the Tiny Bronco? I find the Tiny Bronco to be a bit of a pain in the ass because
it only goes in shallow water.
It only go in shallow water, and it doesn't make any goddamn sense that it can't go over land.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
You literally used the Tiny Bronco to get out of Rocket Town when it was flying over flat land.
Well, it can't fly anymore. So it's like a shitty boat.
The Tiny Bronco sucks. It sucks.
Gets you almost everywhere.
You can only use it on like 10% of the land in the overworld.
You can go over rivers. You can anywhere where it can touch the ground. I guess is what it's doing, but I don't know. It's fine. It accomplishes what they need to do, which is to slightly expand the amount of world map you're allowed to navigate. And I can't get into random battles when I'm on it, so that's cool.
That's the best part, but at the same time, it highlights one of the biggest problems that I have with whenever you're over the overworld. The game does not extrapolate clearly and coherently where it actually wants you to go.
Well, do you have the world map up when you're running around?
I do.
Do you see the little white pips?
Yeah, I do.
Them?
Even then, you have to line the Tiny Bronco on a flat beach because those are the only places where you can land the Tiny Bronco. And finding one of those beaches can be on the complete opposite side of the island where the city that you need to go in.
Yep. Wutai is the place that's the most
egregious. Yes. I got lost so bad. I mean, the worst part about going to Wutai is that it's deceitful in how its bridges have been located because there are some bridges that lead to dead ends, and it's like, great, thanks, game. You put me in this shitty position with an already shitty sequence.
And I have no materia.
Okay, so both of us, after we got the Tiny Bronco, immediately did the very first Yuffie mission, which I like to call Yuffie stole my shit.
That she did. She gets hers.
Oh, fuck that. Just what?
She stole your shit. I had a friend that in elementary school refused to get Yuffie because she stole your shit. And so he just never unlocked her because he never wanted his stuff stolen because she disorganizes everything. I think that's extreme, but the sequence where she steals your shit it's messed up.
Oh, God. And it's already a difficult sequence because you have to navigate through the overworld, and the game isn't very coherent about how you get to Wutai.
Yep.
It's not...
You're over bridges and then under them.
And there are dead ends up the wazoo.
Yep.
Worse yet, the enemies that you fight
are strong.
Aren't easy. And the fact that when you land on this beach, essentially, when you crash the Tiny Bronco, I don't know if you had Yuffie in your party, but I did.
I did.
She says, how about we go west when you crash? And you're like, oh, okay, let's try and go west. And then when you go west, Yuffie reveals that she knows exactly where you are, and she steals your stuff. She steals all of your materia, which it kind of highlights how reliant that you are on materia in order to actually engage in combat.
Yeah, the combat system sucks without materia.
And it's a long, long walk to catch up to Yuffie. All the while, you have to engage in these random encounters, which are not easy. And it's extremely frustrating to complete this entire Yuffie stole my shit side quest without a walkthrough, especially if it's your first time playing the game. You don't know how to go to Wutai. You don't know how to really deal with this. And if you don't have the right items, some of these encounters are downright impossible. If you don't have Vincent with his like sniper rifle or the high damage inducing items for Cloud, you are screwed.
Yeah, the game is at least a little forgiving in that some of the enemies that you run into either on your way to Wutai or in Wutai will drop very strong single-use items.
Yes.
That at least make those fights not as egregious. Like, I think a lot of the Shinra Marines that you fight in Wutai, they all drop S-mines, which deal like about 1,000 damage per use. So that's helpful, but once you run out of those, you'd better not miss. It's all limit breaks and physical attacks from there. But, so you're running around Wutai, you're trying to catch Yuffie, they won't sell you weapons.
Sell you anything, they won't sell you materia, they won't sell you... And then the other thing is that... it's such a dick move on the game. And when you... I don't know if you got this, but there are some materia that are hidden in the environment of Wutai. If you pick those up, Yuffie pops out and is like, stole your shit, bye!
Peace! Yo, fuck you!
It's like, fuck you. And
I gets mine.
Here's the worst part. The only weapon that you can get in Wutai, and it's hidden in the environment, is for Yuffie. That's a character that you no longer have in your party.
Yep.
Fuck that. It has like an attack power of what? Like 65, 66? And it's for a character that you don't have in your party anymore. That's great. Thanks a lot, game. And here's the other big problem that I have with finding Yuffie, is finding Yuffie or figuring out how to make Yuffie reappear is a pain in the ass, and if you don't have a walkthrough and it's your first time doing it, it's actually really difficult to parse out what the game wants you to do.
That and Da Chao, the giant statues, carved,
oh, God.
the giant carved mountain.
Mm-hmm.
That area has random encounters.
Here's the other thing. I got really low on health because I thought that the cave where it's filled with fire was where I needed to be. Because, oh, hey, it's a fire cave. The last level had a fire cave, kind of a cave in general. These worlds always end with a cave or dungeon. So I must be missing something. I have to find these Leviathan scales or something that puts them out. Nope. That's a dead end that you can't do anything with right now. And then there's another sequence prior to that where you essentially find Yuffie's father, and he's just chilling in the inn. And you talk to him, he's like, yeah, I'm sleeping. Bye. And I interpreted that to be literal. To where
you need to keep talking to him.
No, you have to keep talking to him. And you have no idea that you needed to keep talking to him. So I talked to him once. He's like, could you leave me alone? And it's like, okay, bye. And I was talking to everyone else in the environment, and I lost about a solid hour. Didn't have a clue that I had to keep talking to this guy. Like, you end up talking to him 7 times in a row.
Yep. It's that, and then once you've found Yuffie there, then you need to walk around to every location. You have to meet the Turks, who are there, of course.
Of course.
Zany hijinks. It's their day off. Damn it.
Despite the fact, in an earlier sequence from Disc 1, they clearly say, our job is to make your life miserable and capture Eris.
Well, it's their day off.
It's their day off.
So not today, maybe tomorrow.
And don't Reno and Rude have a motivation to want to finally defeat Cloud and company?
Kind of, but they're friendly. They're rivals. They're not enemies. They're rivals. They are another crew. They wear suits.
But then there was this scene in the very first part of the disc where Sang slaps Eris, essentially with Reno's help, blows up the entire plate sequence. They go from this awesome threat, this huge part of the story, to being comic relief, sidekicks, friendly rivals.
Yep. Which is another one where Final Fantasy VII can't decide what the hell they want their villains to be.
Its characterization is so inconsistent that it ends up contradicting itself. Time and time again.
So you finally find Yuffie, she steals your materia again, and then you find her in a pot, and then you find her in a I think she in the cat place? I don't think she's in the cat place.
No, but there's a room full of cats.
There's a room full of cats.
And then probably what I can only describe to be the dumbest reveal ever. Don Corneo comes back.
He's got ninjas.
He's got ninjas who disappear immediately, and you never see the ninjas ever again. And he's got Yuffie and Elena from the Turks. And it makes no sense. Yuffie has stolen your equipment. She's proven herself in combat. Elena is a Turk, and thus suggested having gone through this training system, but she's a Turk. And they both get kidnapped by this bumbling doofus. Why? The answer is because the game needs to have a damsel in distress sequence.
Again! The third!
Again! It needs to have a damsel in distress.
What if I told you it wasn't done? What if I told you there was going to be another one?
Oh, man. Really? No, they're all terrible. Well, Eris getting kidnapped made sense because she was willing to sacrifice herself and well-being for the safety of Barrett's daughter, Marlene. Tifa's made no sense and was one of the worst things ever.
And then Yuffie's makes no sense either.
Because Yuffie stole your shit. She has the ability. She's a ninja. She's been trained to be a ninja. She's trained her entire life to be a ninja.
And she's home. Her home. Full of ninjas.
Someone that was a bumbling doofus manage to get her, tie her up, hog tie her? How?
And then there's the great punchline where he's like, I'm going to have sex with the 16-year-old. She's plucky. Ha ha ha.
Oh, Japan.
Oh, Japan. And it at least led to Vincent having maybe my favorite line.
Oh, yeah,
in the
that
whole
line
game.
is great.
I don't care what you're doing so much as the stupid way in which you are doing it. Which is the best. He's just like, look, I barely know these people. I don't know who the hell you are. But this is so Come on. Come on. Vincent is he is me. He is my audience surrogate.
The level of Vincent not giving a shit is the best part about him.
Yeah,
because his quips feel entirely justified. He's a good character that I ended up personally siding with and understanding where he was coming from. You have to fight a dragon.
Yeah, that sucks.
Fight a
Rap
dragon. Sucks. And he has what is it? Arrow 3? Which is
it one-shots any of your characters.
At this point, it does. Because it does what? 1,500 plus damage?
Yep. Yeah, I beat that fight just through limit break luck. I think I got 2 or 3 yeahs with Tifa, and then I used the S mines, and that got me through the fight.
And
Vincent,
it's made
MVP.
even more difficult because you don't have any materia. Having a boss fight with an already difficult boss encounter is a dick move. You have to really focus on staying alive and unleashing limit breaks just to be able to get through.
And it's fast, too. It's not even like that fight.
Oh, yeah?
Doesn't give you any slack.
Fuck you. It's a big
attacks
fuck
twice.
you to the audience.
It attacks 2 times physically, or it uses arrow 3. That's so much damage. Once it gets one of your characters dead, if it decides to use one of its 2 attacks to kill the person you revived, it's going to kill them.
And here's my biggest problem. Yes, Yuffie does end up having another mission at Wutai that builds her character, but for a lot of people, it's a difficult mission that
the pagoda
is no joke. So it's very much a possibility that this is your only character moment with Yuffie. And if that's the case, it's a lame-ass character moment for Yuffie. She gets kidnapped. She proves nothing. She has no extra motivation to be a part of this party. You have no reason to side with her. You have no reason to trust her ever again. You have no reason to feel morally or emotionally invested into her.
So what I gained from Wutai was I forgot how much of a not just Wutai being obviously Japanese-inspired with its pagodas and its name and everything about it, clearly being Japanese-inspired, I didn't remember that it's also an allegory for post-World War II Japan.
Yes, it is. Very much so.
I didn't remember that, and I enjoyed Yuffie's I don't know what stance the developers are. I think the stance is they dislike the way Japan is right now. That Yuffie is this person who's saying, why are we cowering? Why are we voluntarily disarming ourselves because the Shinra defeated us in a war?
I feel as if Yuffie's father's pragmatism is justified.
Is it pragmatism or is it depicted as laziness? Because he's just lounging about in his palace while Yuffie's out here saying, we've got to rearm, we've got to take it to the evil Shinra, this capitalist monopoly.
But there's no... I think what Yuffie's father ends up siding with is, like, there's no going back. And that was basically where Japan was when this game was made. By the time 1997, it was the Big in Japan movement. The whole idea of, in the United States, we were worried about Japan taking over in a way that now we're worried about China taking over. The whole Big in Japan movement, yeah. I
just remember... What stuck out for me was when Yuffie said, now we are dependent on tourism, and we are this tourist town, we used to be proud warriors, and now we're just this destination, this vacation destination, and we need to get materia, we need to rearm, we need to take our rightful place in the world again. Mm-hmm. And I'm just, okay, this is the most thinly veiled of allegories. I see where you're coming from. I understand it within the cultural context. I just found it was so blatant that...
Well, I mean, there's a lot of other things about Final Fantasy VII that are even more blatant. Yep. It's environmentalism, its engagement in the naturalistic fallacy. Yeah, Wutai... It's
anti-capitalism.
Despite the fact that this is coming from a major corporation.
Yep.
Square. Wait, was it just Square, or was it Square Enix? Okay, got it.
They were still... I mean, they were relatively big, but they were not forced to merge with the Dragon Quest people yet.
Oh, yeah, because they almost went bankrupt because of a movie.
Yep. That Final Fantasy VII probably set that into motion.
Yeah.
But I thought Wutai was an excellent location. I really didn't enjoy what they did with Yuffie in particular, and Elena. I thought that the Turk team-up was cool if... incongruous with their personalities up until that point.
It's incongruous, and it's also inconsistent. The game can't pick a direction that it wishes to go with Yuffie. At one time, she's like the idealistic person who wants to re-engage the war, and then on another side, she's this kooky teenager that's saying, hee, I'm gonna steal your shit again.
Oh, God.
Some of her quips are the worst. If you have her in your party like I did,
yep,
her quips are bad. But I'll say this, and I know this is going to make you angry, she's still better than Selphie.
I disagree.
You're wrong. Selphie is intolerable.
She loves trains, and she feels things when when she goes back to Trabia. We're not going to have this discussion.
We're not going to have this discussion again because, again, that's a one-off sequence. At least Yuffie is consistent about her characterization. She's also younger, so the fact that she's saying all of these weird slang terms and is idealistic, it feels appropriate for her age.
Selphie has a blog. She is ahead of the game. We're not doing this.
The fact that I have to learn about Selphie on a blog is complete crap.
But it was 1998. That was totally what the world was like. Get on my
Here's the weirdest thing. And I've been thinking about this personally, when we get to the kind of actual good scenes in this game, have you ever noticed how Final Fantasy VII did all of these interesting things in it, and games are still struggling to perfect them today?
Yeah. 7 was way ahead of its damn time.
It doesn't work all the time.
No, they try, though.
But they tried so hard. Like, killing off characters, depicting adult themes, and it's environmental variety. It's such a daring and ambitious game. And there are games still today that are being made that don't even get close to what Final Fantasy VII attempted to do.
Yep. It is both inspiring and depressing all at once. So after Wutai, you then go on a little adventure, a little questy quest.
You have to find the keystone.
Yep.
Well, no. Originally, when the little tiny Bronco crashed, it's mentioned that you basically need to go find Sephiroth. It's strongly suggested that you go to the Temple of the Ancients. You go to the Temple of the Ancients, and you still have no idea what you need to do. If you don't have Eris with your party, you're fucked. Because the sequence where you meet another robed dude, a weird robed dude with a number on his shoulder. I wish they actually showed you what the weird robed dude people look like under the robes, so is that the idea that they're being horribly experimented on was further, like, established, and the horror of it all was clear.
You've seen one
Mm-hmm.
without the robe.
Yeah,
actually.
at the very beginning, it's the tree monster-looking thing.
No, I mean, like, you've seen one of those tattooed people.
Yeah.
I don't think you remember it. In Midgar, when you're going to take Eris back to her home, you head to this there's a little section with a shop, between her house and between the cathedral and Wall Market.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little town section, and in a pipe, there's a dude who's like groggy.
Oh, okay, yeah, got it.
He had a tattoo on his hand.
Okay.
He had, I forget, I think it was like 0 or 9 or something.
Okay.
But he just looked like a dude.
Another example of Final Fantasy VII foreshadowing a later moment in its story. Mad respect on it for actually having foreshadowing. It's as if the people who wrote this game understood the magic of storytelling.
It's as if.
It's as if.
So
getting to the Temple of Ancients is a pain in the ass, because the keystone, the game says, hey, go to the Temple of the Ancients. Okay, what does that mean? What does it actually mean, what you need to do? Where is this Temple of the Ancients? Oh, yeah, just find it yourself. And you eventually discover it's this Chichen Itza-looking pyramid. You go in there, and if you did what I did, I had Vincent and Tifa in my party. You go up to there, you go up to this pedestal, and then Cloud kind of shrugs his shoulders and like, I don't know what to do. and then that's it. If you have Eris, you discover one, this weird robe dude gets ascended into heaven. What? And he disappears and he screams, Keystone. But you don't get that scene if you don't have Eris in your team.
Ah, okay. I saw that because when you go back with the keystone, that dude is there, and I thought that sequence was playing because I was there, not because Eris was now in my party.
It happens no matter what the first time you enter the Temple of the Ancients with Eris. It's supposed to be your hint as to where you need to go. I'm playing this game for the very first time, and my general rule of thumb is I have to attempt every part of the main story without a guide until I get extremely frustrated, which I did. And so I ended up looking up where the keystone was. So where do you find the keystone? One, the only
Keystone
hint.
Light. It's the only beer you need.
Only hint as to where the keystone is in this random antiques collector in the middle of goddamn nowhere who said, hey, I sold the keystone to Dio in the battle or the Golden Saucer. That's the only hint that you get. The game never tells you that there's this antiques dealer in the middle of nowhere. And so is the only purpose of that antiques dealer's house to suggest where the keystone is? Because that's a waste of the environment.
I think that he might actually turn into a weapons store or something later on. I think there's like a little reason to go back there at some point, but other than that, I don't think so.
So your princess is in another castle. You go up to Dio. Well, no, you don't go up to Dio. You go to the battle square, and you find out he has the keystone enshrined for reasons that you don't quite understand. If the keystone is a precious item, shouldn't he have more security in keeping it in safekeeping?
It's in the battle square. I feel like if you tried to steal it, you probably wouldn't walk away. He's real strong.
I wasted a solid 2 hours trying to figure out how to get back to the Golden Saucer because I completely forgot that you can only enter the Golden Saucer on the tram at North Coral.
Yep.
There's no way to enter the Golden Saucer through the impassable desert that surrounds it, despite when you leave it for the very first time, you're on that buggy. So I was trying to navigate the buggy so as that it could go back to that area. No, you can't do that because the buggy's pretty much stuck in an area to where you can no longer use it.
You can get the buggy back. It's just that doesn't get you into the Gold Saucer.
But it's how you left the Golden Saucer.
It is. But no, you have to take the tram.
And then I had to remember, fuck. Where is North Coral? Which one of these dots is North Coral?
It's the one near the Gold Saucer.
Yeah, that doesn't help me. But then... These dots need names right next to them because I had to constantly switch back and forth between the guide. Like, okay, which dot is North Coral? Okay, where's the beach that I can get off from the tiny Bronco and then walk to North Coral?
It's far away.
And then that means you have to... At least the enemies don't scale like they do in Final Fantasy VIII. Otherwise... That'd be a massive dick.
Well, if it was Final Fantasy VIII, there would be no enemies because you wouldn't be encountering any random battles ever.
Yeah, I know.
Game's so good.
It's got problems. It's a problematic game.
But random battles ain't one of them.
So you go into the battle square, and the battle square is kind of a dick move because. I don't understand why I have to go back to do another side quest just to get Omni Slash from the Battle Square after I successfully completed the Battle Square during this sequence.
Well, you need to do it a bunch of times to get enough battle points.
Oh, I know.
Get Omni Slash. I don't think I'm going to get Omni Slash, I'm going to be honest. I think I'm going to try. The funny thing is, Red 13, you have his level 4 limit break.
Yeah, and it's just Vincent, a part of the story.
Well, if you get Vincent. But you have his level 4 limit break on Disc 1, which is kind of crazy. It makes me kind of want to use him, but like not really. It's not enough. I would need more incentive than just having his level 4 limit break to use Dogman.
I know that it's going to be a part of the story later, but revisiting locations, meh. I don't hate it. I don't like it. It just is. It just is.
It's deep. But at least this time you get robbed by Kate Sith and you go on a date.
So who did you end up dating for...
Tifa.
Yeah, I got Tifa too.
Yeah, I realized too late I wanted to try the Yuffie date just because I've seen the Tifa date already.
Yeah.
But I did not screw up the play.
I didn't screw up the play. Although I wanted to. I nailed my lines. I wanted to ask what Tifa's measurements were because I'm a pervert.
We know this about you. But I wanted to talk to the knight and be like, haha, I should have talked to the wizard, but instead I talked to the knight. Now what? Improv. Give me a scene. Give me an action. Let's improv.
I don't hate the date. I don't like the date. It's just there.
Yep. Tifa's like, Eris would be able to say how she feels.
It's like, why are you bringing her up? We're on a date. Shouldn't you be standing on the laurels of yourself? Haven't we gone through this whole thing to where at this point you have a little bit more self-esteem and self-confidence?
I'm the girl next door. I don't know what to do.
Oh, man, why? I mean, come on. Can you actually date Barrett?
You can go with him. I don't know that it's a date.
Aww.
In the same way. It's a date with Yuffie. Like, she'll give you a little kiss on the cheek. Tifa
is awkward.
Yeah, she's awkward, and she's like, if only we had met later for some reason, that would somehow make their relationship better. And I think I've never seen the Eris one because she dies. I'm never gonna want to get emotionally invested into Eris because she dies. Yep. So Gold Saucer, you were right. You called it.
Kate Sith is the spy because, of course, he's the spy. He's the only person of the party that doesn't have a clearly articulated goal or vision.
He's also not a people.
He's not a person. Was it already established that he wasn't a person, or...
I mean, he's a cat riding a Moogle. Like, he's a robot. It says he's a robot when you meet him. He's a RoboCat. On a Moogle thing. So, I mean, you know that...
That's lame. That's lame. You go through all this time and effort to get this thing only to have the MacGuffin stolen.
And then he ransoms Marlene.
Which is not a great... If the whole point is for me to feel remorse in having Kate Sith sacrifice himself, I don't have any. He's ransoming Marlene and threatening to do horrible things to Marlene.
And he's a robot, so who cares if he dies?
But also, wouldn't the Turks want to do a little bit more other than steal the MacGuffin? Wouldn't they want to, like, attack the party? Because now they have all this data in terms of... They have constant coordinates in terms of where Cloud is, where Eris is. Wouldn't they constantly be sending teams to take them down or attack them? They only send one attack party. And you're the ones that find them.
It's a good question. I don't know why they don't have you, why they don't come for you at any point. Or...
It's just another example of plot by convenience. They needed to have this betrayal. They needed to have you be at a low moment in the story. And it's not great.
Yep. Yeah, so that happens, and then you get to go to the Temple of the Ancients, your favorite location.
Real quick, I feel like I have the answer to this now. Was the Temple of the Ancients always bad?
Yes, it was always bad.
So people knew that the Temple of the Ancients was bad even during the PlayStation 1 era.
Let me put it to you this way. I did not play this game when it was in the zeitgeist. I played it like 5 years after. I felt... The reason why I do not replay this game is the minigames are long and tedious. You cannot speed through a lot of these sections without... I guess if I learned some speedrun tactics, maybe I could get through a little bit faster, but you can't turn off random encounters, and there's no way to really limit them that I know of. Maybe I could figure something out, but it's just a longer game, it feels like. There are lulls kind of here and there all over the place for the story, and some of the dungeons just suck.
And this is one of them. The Temple of the Ancients is... It's
not visually interesting. I mean, it's visually interesting. It's an M.C. Escher.
It is. It is an M.C. Escher wet dream. But...
Navigating it sucks.
There's a lot of dead ends. Their idea of creating a puzzle, it's not intuitive. There's nothing to puzzle. You just have to use dumb luck, trial and error to figure things out. And the worst part is about the Temple of the Ancients is part of the environment requires you to climb up vines. And sometimes it's not very clear which vines you can climb up and which ones you can't.
It reminds me of the Tomb of the Unknown King or the Cetra ruins in Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh, God.
Like, those two locations, I think the Tomb of the Unknown King is a more interesting dungeon. I think having this place that all of the locations look the same, but
then trying to parse out that Braille like tablet in order to find out left, right, left, right. Fuck that.
Sure, but I think it's a little more visually interesting.
I'll say this: the one thing that has in its favor, there's no fucking random encounters.
Yep,
you have to go through this Byzantine labyrinth, and there are these random encounters, and the Tomb of the Ancient is no goddamn joke.
Temple of the Ancients.
It's no goddamn joke. I was running low on resources. I was running low on MP. You have to find these, like, purple magical creatures that are the embodiment of the souls of the ancients. They look like Santa Claus.
Yep. Purple Santa Claus.
You also use them as save spots because it's already a dick move that this level exists. Why have no save points?
I do like that they give you a heads up. Hey, we're in the Temple of the Ancients. It's going to be very hard to leave.
Yeah.
You might want to save like on a different slot.
Climbing oh, it's so bad. It's so bad.
At least there are no random encounters in the room with the stones.
Yeah. But the ones... Why have some levels with no random encounters and then other areas with random encounters? Why not just be consistent? The whole point of the Temple of the Ancients is that it's this decrepit, desolate wasteland that used to be of a culture or civilization that no longer exists. So be it completely absent of any random encounters at all, which the game does have the common courtesy to engage on that conceit with a later portion of the game. But why not commit to that here? And then the other big thing that I have a problem with is that normally when there's an environmental puzzle like this, there are no random encounters. There were no random encounters in the plate sequence. There were no random encounters with other parts of the game where you had to navigate up. Why here?
I mean, this is kind of a combination puzzle section and dungeon. I just think... I don't mind it in the MC Escher section just because you have those curing purple dudes...
Yeah.
At two different exits, basically, and so that saves you a little bit of health. But if you get lost, it's fucked. Like if you get lost, you can be in a real bind. Luckily, that for as big as that area seems to be,
it's actually smaller than it really is.
Yeah.
There are so many dead ends. There are so many paths to no solution. And the worst part is, it would be one thing if it was like a maze, but there's nothing to puzzle here. There's no hints, there's no guide, there's no map. You don't actually have anything to use at your resource or your disposal to solve it. You have to use trial and error, which is always a sign of poor design in a puzzle game, or a puzzle in general. I will say this, I think I like the aesthetics of some parts of the Temple of the Ancients more than you. I kind of like the design of the MC Escher level.
I thought that's fine.
I liked the final room that had the hieroglyphics.
Yeah, it's amazing that they, I guess, can't decide what they want the Cetra to be culturally. And they've got Egyptian hieroglyphics. They've got some, like, vague Native American.
They've got vague Native American. And then labyrinths are Greek and Roman.
Yeah, it's
Minoan
weird.
Even. And there's the bridge sequence, which is no fun to play. The bridge sequence where there are these ominously rolling stone wheels. Why?
Donuts?
Why?
Stone donuts?
If it's abandoned, then why is it... How?
Where are they coming from?
How? Where are they coming from? Why did they stop?
I don't know.
I liked when you got to the pool... There was the moment with Sephiroth. That was actually kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed Sang getting cut.
Yeah.
And then you go to... then you've got the clock room.
So wait, is Sang dead?
No, I don't think he's dead. I think he was hurt, but he said if you talk to him, he's like, I'm wounded, but I'm not dead.
Yeah.
So...
And then, of course, there's the giant clock room, which is the biggest fuck you to the audience the game has done in a good long time.
I didn't mind the
clock room, but
moving... I have a guide.
Okay, again, the game considers it a puzzle, but it's not actually a puzzle because you don't know which rooms are filled with items. You don't know which rooms will lead to the next sequence. You just have to use trial and error, luck, and your ability to tolerate getting knocked down and having to fight those fucking goddamn green dragons in the bottom of the goddamn place.
You get a nail bat, though.
You get a nail bat, but you... and then you have to... When you get knocked down, you got to go swing out of this... and you got to navigate up the labyrinth all over again, and you got to go up...
How many times did you get knocked down?
I got knocked down 3 times.
I got knocked down once. Because intentionally to get the nail bat.
The first time I had no idea. Like,
yep.
Oh, that's just a weird thing. That's not going to do anything. The other time, I realized, like, as I was walking onto the arm of the clock, like, oh man, I'm going to get hit. Why did I do this? And because, again, it's my first time going through, I went through every single fucking room.
So you got into a few random battles,
Got into
a couple
few random
dead ends.
battles with enemies that are already difficult. I
accidentally killed myself against the 2 dragons in the bottom because I tried to use Trine on the enemies, and because it's an attack from both sides, I hit the button I thought I would attack the other dragon, and it turns out you have to hit it twice. So I used Trine on my own party and wiped them.
So did you get a game over?
Yep.
Oh, okay, you finally got a game over. I've been getting those a little bit. But you actually do want to explore all of the rooms because there are some good items there. There's another weapon for Cait Sith, which Cait Sith can go fuck himself. There's
Eris's ultimate weapon.
Oh boy, yeah, I get to get a lot of use out of that, eh?
Yeah, I mean, you fight 2 bosses with it.
And then you get a ribbon.
Or 1 boss with it.
You get a ribbon.
Yep.
The ribbons are the greatest thing ever.
So, you equipped the ribbon on Eris when she left your party.
Oh! I fucked up. I fucked it up. I fucked it up. I put a ribbon on Eris. First off, I'd like... I'm trying to get my ideas and thoughts together because at one point I was in a frothing rage that can only be described as maybe a bit on the histrionic side. However, good on the game for doing something as daring as killing Eris off. Shame on them for doing it with a character that they very clearly want you to be, 1, personally invested in, 2, engaged in a romance with because she's the one that they clearly push you towards, like, hey, Cloud, you should date this character. You should talk to this character.
Hey, your mom says that you'd be good with an older woman. Eris is older than you.
Yeah, she's
Tifa's
older than
younger. Hey, Cait Sith gave you a fortune that said you'll be together forever. Hugs and kisses.
So I gave Eris a ribbon and I gave her a golden armlet.
The golden armlet's not as important as the ribbon.
The ribbon is clutch. Also, if I had kept the princess guard, I probably could have sold it.
I think you can only sell ultimate weapons for like a 1 gil or something.
Yeah, well, whatever. And like, personally, I was correct in assuming that there was going to be a boss battle with Eris. Because Eris is in your party no matter what, because of course she's in your party. It's the Temple of the Ancients where she's going to learn more about her history, what it means to be an ancient, what's the relationship between Sephiroth, Genova, the Ancients, what's the live stream, what's happening, what? All of those questions are about to be addressed.
Remember those character sequences I was talking about? Like, oh, we've got Red 13 and we've got to go in this place. Oh, Barrett, we've got to learn about your buddy. This is that one for Eris. And they don't tell you that when you're done, she just fucking leaves and takes whatever you equipped her with.
Your goddamn shit, and you lose it basically forever. Do you lose your shit forever?
Not the materia,
but you lose your items.
Yeah.
And she leaves a solid 2 sequences before she gets killed.
Yep, so you think you might get them back.
You might get her back. Like, I knew she was going to die. I didn't know when she was going to steal my shit.
You didn't know when she was going to die, either.
I didn't even know when she was going to die.
You didn't know that you didn't get, like, an opportunity. Like, hey, maybe something's going down. Maybe you should say, like, take her stuff.
Nope. And then also, before she leaves, there's this battle with 2 bosses. One of whom is really, really hard.
The demon wall?
Yes, Demon's Gate. There's also, I mean, if you want to talk about shitty puzzles, you have to catch the personification of the Ancients' souls from the live stream, where there's all those doors. That scene sucks, because...
Thanks, Guidebook,
but you basically... It's such a bad thing. The doors are bad. You don't know There's no labeling system for the doors. You basically have to go through an entire sequence in order to memorize a pattern. That's stupid.
Yep.
That's bad. That's a bad puzzle. You get nothing at your disposal to solve it other than
trial and error
and rote memorization. That is not a puzzle. That is, we didn't have enough resources to do anything here, so let's just put in some bullshit. Let's put in some padding. There's a lot of filler in Final Fantasy VII, which we'll talk about in a little bit, because there's even more filler coming up.
Yeah.
But, oh my god. I lost everything. I lost 2 really good items.
So you redid it.
I redid it. I replayed the entire Temple of the Ancients. Because. So you go... What is it? You go to the Temple of the Ancients, and you actually have a pretty cool moment with Sephiroth on 2 occasions. The first one, basically, you see what I can only assume is a hologram or, like I said, an apparition of Sephiroth, because he floats in and out, and he's not solid. He flies around. Kind of, again, to me, personally, I believe that suggests that he's an apparition or not the actual physical Sephiroth.
I have never understood what the properties of Sephiroth are exactly, like what the properties of him, because he floats in and out, he flies, he does a whole lot of weird stuff that you would think, oh, maybe it's in Cloud's head. Like, he freaks out. Like, there are segments where he's clearly being mind controlled. Once you have the Black Materia, once Kate Sith dies, Cloud has an out-of-body experience. You control a child version of Cloud.
Telling him, no.
Yeah, and you tell him, no, don't do it. And Cloud's body continues to move. And then when Sephiroth leaves, he's like, what the hell did I just do? Why did I do that?
I actually think that's a good moment.
I think it's a very cool moment.
It's a very cool moment.
It makes me think, okay, maybe Cloud is seeing things. Maybe he's not there. But Tifa and Aeris are like, oh, Sephiroth was just here. So, okay, it's not in Cloud's head. Everyone sees Sephiroth. He just materialized out of the floor, and everyone saw that happen. So what is he?
What is he doing to Cloud? How is he influencing Cloud? How is that version of Sephiroth or this depiction of Sephiroth? Why is it so inconsistent? Why is he a solid human being in some sequences? And why is he an immaterial object in other sequences? How is he flying? How is he going through walls and floors? How is he transposing himself? How is he transporting himself?
Yeah, and some of this stuff will get explained, but just the sheer anime properties of him, I don't think ever gets explained. And since you've watched Advent Children, since you've watched Advent Children, you know that there's crazy anime physics all over the place, and then a dude like hugs Genova's head and becomes Sephiroth out of nowhere.
I remember.
And so those
who is Sephiroth is like my burning question. Is there actually a Sephiroth? I don't know.
Yes, and so I think that there's a lot of frickin' crazy anime physics that happen where, okay, I guess he can go through walls, or I guess he can fly, but he probably won't be able to when it matters.
Again, it highlights one of those fears that I had with the story. I admit, I really do like the sequence where Cloud loses control of his body. He has immediate regret, and he takes his anger out at Aeris. Does he actually beat Aeris up in the face? I never understood that.
He had an out-of-body... It wasn't him taking out his frustration. Again, you're controlling a tiny child Cloud, and Cloud is attacking Aeris. So, I think he's being mind-controlled again.
Again, I really do like that sequence for a number of occasions. It justifies Aeris leaving the party, because she feels like, well, clearly something's wrong with you. I don't blame you. I think the moment where they're in the sleeping forest is really touching. But I'm willing to make another sacrifice, as I did with Marlene. I will go on the journey by myself. Which is a mistake. She made a mistake.
Is it a mistake?
She made a move.
Because Cloud can't be trusted. Cloud just started punching her for no good reason.
But... she got stabbed.
Okay, so we should talk the Bone Village.
Oh wait, no, there's a lot
stab.
more I kind of wanted to talk about. The Demon's Gate is a shitter. That's a shitty battle. He ignores a lot of. That's a shitty battle. That's a real shitty battle.
Slow on him.
You have to cast slow on him, and you have to cast haste. The sacrifice of Kate Sith.
The most meaningless of sacrifices.
The most meaningless of sacrifices. And I don't know if I was supposed to feel anything, because in the very previous scene, Kate Sith was seen betraying the party and threatening to do something to Marlene. So am I supposed to be sympathetic of him? Did he gain sentience was the real big question that I don't understand.
Yeah, that was my big question, because he is a cat robot being remote controlled by someone in Shinra headquarters.
And then all of a sudden, he's like, is this the actual person that's controlling him that's making the sacrifice? Because then he turns to the camera and is like, hey, don't forget me. There's other Kate Sith, but I'm the real one that did all this cool stuff for you that made the story progress and move forward. It's like, did he gain sentience?
Is this Kate Sith? Like, actually, is it not the dude making his puppet dance?
He fucking ruins the really emotionally taut, touching scene where Cloud loses control. He's like, hey, I'm Kate Sith number 2. How you doing? It's like, fuck, no. What? No. Get out of here.
Get out of here, Kate Sith.
You're the worst.
Drop you off in a fucking helicopter.
What?
Asshole.
Why would we trust Kate Sith number 2? Why?
I mean, the only way it could have been worse was if Kate Sith number 2 was like, hey, Cloud, why are you punching her so much? That's super crazy. What the heck?
I really do like the moment where Cloud is unconscious and you're in the sleeping forest and Eris is talking to you.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's possible. Does Eris have the ability to communicate?
Via dreams?
Via dreams?
I don't know.
If that's true, then she probably should have used that ability like multiple times in the story.
I don't know, but Cloud just got that. He's got that Harry Potter Voldemort shit going on with Sephiroth.
And how does Eris leave without anyone else knowing or noticing her leaving the party?
Just magic.
Magic? Didn't, Yuffie follow her because she's a ninja?
Nope. Yuffie's not a ninja when she needs to not be a ninja.
It's a good moment overall. It's one of those moments where all of the pieces come together, and there's some weird stuff that distracts you from what you're witnessing. It's overall a good moment.
Mm-hmm.
And you really do feel for Cloud when he says, I'm afraid. You're like, yeah, I understand why you're afraid. You're afraid of yourself. And that's something that I think a lot of people can relate with. We've all kind of lost control of our good common sense. He has an out-of-body experience. You understand exactly where Cloud is coming from.
Mm-hmm. And then he's like, well, we're going to keep going. And then you go to Bone Town.
You got another goddamn godforsaken puzzle. This one's just dumb. This one is contrived. It
takes like 5 minutes.
You gotta spend money to solve this puzzle.
Capitalism, son.
You gotta spend money to solve this puzzle. Did you get any of the other items?
No, I figure I looked in the guidebook and it looked like one of them was for Sid, and so I didn't care.
One of them is for Vincent.
Oh, I haven't been using Vincent. I've actually been using Yuffie.
Yeah, because we both need to level her up so as that we can do this pagoda bullshit.
Well, that, and I just want... I've played the game with Vincent in my third slot. I've thought about replacing Tifa, too, just so that I get the experience of playing with other characters, but Tifa's so good. She's got a limit break that...
How do I add another slot? Because I'm still stuck with 2 slots.
On her power?
Yeah.
You just go to the menu, the limit menu,
yeah,
and you move it up to level 2. If she's unlocked Water Kick, has she?
I don't know.
It'll say at the end of a battle when she unlocks limit breaks. Like, have you upgraded Cloud? Is he still doing cross slash?
Yeah, cross slash and braver.
Oh, he should have Blade Beam by now. Go to the limit menu and
okay. When this
you can set
podcast
the
is
level
over, you're
higher.
gonna guide me through this because I don't understand what you're. There's a limit menu.
Yeah, on the main menu, there's a limit.
Fuck
It says
that.
limit, and then you set it to the higher level, and then you get to use higher level limit breaks. I'm sorry.
The game never told me that.
Nope. You have to look at the menu, and it says limit.
Fuck that. So you have to find this lunar harp. It's buried in some part of the environment. You pay people to point you in the right direction. You blow some stuff up, and you dig it, and you get the shit, and then you move on with your life. You move on with your life. I will say this. The next couple of set pieces are very beautiful and well done.
Yes.
The Sleeping Forest is cool. I got the summon materia that was flickering in the background.
Yep, Kajata.
I don't know who Kajata is. I haven't used it.
It's a pig. It's an elemental pig.
I've asked people for their input. I have not been using the summons at all because I find them to be really, really long and boring, and they actually make the battles even longer than what they need to be.
They kind of do, but some of the summons hit so dang hard that they are the most damaging thing you can do at a given point in the game. And so I've been using whatever the most recent summon you've gotten tends to be the strongest summon. So Odin will hit for about 1,000 damage to every enemy. Bahamut will hit for like 2,000. Some of those summons are just so dang powerful that in a boss fight, I just summon all of my high-level summons, and then I have Tifa use Death Blow over and over and over again. And then when I run out of summons, I just use physical attacks, and hopefully by then I'm hitting people with limit breaks. But that's gotten me through most boss fights despite not having any HP up materia. So I think you should... And then against regular enemies, either I use enemy skill, Aqualung or Trine to clear out the enemies, or I'll summon a low-level summon like Shiva or Ifrit, and they'll clear them out all in one hit. Just because killing them all in one hit will save more time, even though that animation is long, than seeing any enemy animations or hitting them multiple times with physical attacks. So I would say you should be summoning at least your highest level summons in boss fights. That'll make it easier for you.
Okay.
But you don't have to level them. Like leveling materia, you never have to go out of your way. Just whatever materia you're using will level over time. Don't worry about it.
I've been tinkering around with it, but I'd never felt incredibly motivated to engage in Final Fantasy VII's metagame, as I've said repeatedly. If I can get through the game, then I'm fine.
You're fine.
And
it won't punish you. Like you might get punished for not having HP up materia. I haven't been yet, but I feel like it's coming when the enemies will just do so much damage that I'm just going to be in a bad place. But we'll see.
I think the Coral Valley is a really cool set piece.
Yes.
It's this kind of underwater area that's absent of water. It reminds me of Myst. This felt like... the Coral Valley felt like a level I could have seen in a Myst game.
Yep, it feels like Riven.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like the town in Riven.
Yeah. And then that leads us to the last major set piece of Disc 1. Unless there's something from the Coral Valley that you would like to talk about.
I enjoyed searching all of the abandoned homes, and I liked the items that you get there were pretty strong. But yeah, the Eris's scene.
The Forgotten Capital. I like how there was no random encounters because the game developers realized this is supposed to be an abandoned capital where an ancient civilization that formerly existed here no longer exists, and there shouldn't be anything here.
Yep.
I think it was a great call on their part. There's some really cool items that you can pick up, but it ultimately leads to Final Fantasy.
And the music's good.
Yes, it does. It's a little bit of techno kind of juxtaposition. It leads to the scene. It leads to the scene from Final Fantasy VII.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Final Fantasy VII ends with a high note. Disc 1 ends with a high note, just like Final Fantasy VIII did.
Oh, man.
Someone gets impaled through the chest in both.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's almost as if they were trying to live up to the expectations in 8 and wanted to have an easy comparison between the two.
And then Squall wakes up.
And then Squall wakes up, and then
like nothing happened.
And then
you realize they won't get up. But yeah, that scene is so much better than I even remembered. It's so good. The Eris scene.
I respect the Eris scene.
Oh, you don't?
I like the Eris scene.
Okay.
But I will say this.
Are we going to disagree?
I believe that there's a part to the Eris scene that I will never be able to appreciate, and I find that slightly depressing. It was never going to be a surprise. It was never going to have the full emotional impact. I don't know if I can blame myself, the game, or the internet. I have no one to blame. I have no one to turn my anger towards. But I do have an appreciation for it from a distance that is undeniable.
Just the craftsmanship of that sequence. The sequence it starts with Cloud basically saying, "Hey, everyone else, back up, I got this." And then
he fails.
You lose control of him.
You lose control of him. He's unable to intervene. And
the sequence progresses. You can press buttons to try and get him to do other things, but he will eventually stand in front of Eris and raise his sword to, like, cut her down. And then he comes to his senses because someone shouts to him,
yes.
"Cloud, what the hell are you doing?" And then CGI happens. Sephiroth comes down from the top rope and
stabs her, and she
stabs
dies.
her. She dies, and
no
her
one
eyes like
decides
emote.
To have a person in your party cast heal or restore.
Well, yes, we know. Everyone knows that out in cutscenes, no one comes back, and then out of cutscenes, they come back forever, always.
Yeah, you're right. The characters emote in a way that is, for a game from 1997, is still impactful to this day.
And for a game from 1997 rated T for teen, to have a sword go through her chest and come out the other side, and then you see him pull the sword out, and she just slumps over dead. Like, that... It's graphic in a way that I didn't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just love that moment where her hair tie comes loose, and the materia that she's been carrying, this green materia, falls down, and as soon as it bounces the first time, it hits the ground, her theme comes in and plays for the rest of the sequence. And I thought it was just so masterfully done. No? You disagree?
Again, this is from my perspective of someone playing this game from 2016.
I mean, I was never surprised when I played
I was
this
never
game
surprised,
for Vita.
but I never felt like I fully understood why Sephiroth murdered Eris. Why he could never use Eris. Why he didn't view Eris as a resource.
She said she was going to do something to stop Meteor from destroying the planet.
What does that mean?
So, what
I remember,
do you think is his plan?
I remember seeing the meteor in the Temple of the Ancients, but again, a lot of this scene leaves a lot of things open-ended. And
so, do you understand what his plan is?
He wants to destroy the planet so that he can repopulate it with himself and Genova.
No.
Okay.
He wants... and they've said this, so I'm not spoiling anything. He wants to take the meteor... He wants to summon a meteor using the black materia. That's what the spell does. It grabs like a piece of space rock and hurls it towards the planet.
Mm-hmm.
When the planet is injured or wounded, the life stream, all this life juice... will try to heal the wound of the planet. So the planet tries to heal itself. It's like a foreign body. He wants to be at the impact point so that when all of that energy starts rushing there to try and heal the wound that he made with this meteor, he's going to absorb all that energy and become some sort of super being.
Okay.
That is his plan. And then leave. And then leave the planet, go someplace else.
Meh.
It's a shitty JRPG antagonist plan. but Eris says, I need to do something to stop him. So he just knows that she's up to something.
So if she knows that possibly Sephiroth is there, why does she leave her guard down in the first place?
No comment.
What I would say is my criticism overall is that it happens. It is another set piece that you accept the spectacle in order to enjoy the spectacle. And you have to put in all common logic to the wayside in order to enjoy the spectacle. It does result in the death of a character, which I give Squaresoft full credit for doing that. It's a huge risk. But I feel like, again, there's a part to this scene that I can never appreciate. I can never fully appreciate Eris's death. And that is just nagging me and gnashing at my brain, my hippocampus, as I kind of try and extrapolate my full feelings to it.
And I think as this is my second time playing Final Fantasy VII, I think I appreciated it more the second time, knowing the full range that scene what it means for the rest of the story. Actually having that full context in mind, I think makes that scene
I
impactful.
mean, as someone who still hasn't played
later.
The entirety of the game, it's like, wait, what? Why? Does it really make sense to have it here? What the fuck? Why? Oh, okay. I guess we're gonna no longer have Eris. That's sad. I will say this. I think that the moments right after her death are far more impactful than the actual death sequence. When you fight Genova, Eris's theme plays, and it's like, great touch. Great decision, great call. The fact that this is one of the more easier and manageable Genova battles makes perfect sense, because having a character die during this battle would essentially completely negate the whole impact of the death of Eris.
And for me, what really stuck with me was when she dies, before Genova shows up, before Sephiroth throws an arm or a leg or whatever the fuck it is. Cloud is holding Eris, and she's dead.
He's lamenting not necessarily her specific death, but what she's never going to be able to experience. He says now she's never going to cry, be happy. He feels as if that her death is partly his fault. Yes, one, he lost control of his body and being once again, so he feels that guilt. And then two, he was very confident that he had this under control and managed. And he failed. Essentially, the hero failed.
And what I loved was the juxtaposition of Sephiroth trying to do his JRPG villain monologue. Well, now I won't be stopped. Now Genova's reign. Yeah. And Cloud's like, fucking shut up.
Shut up.
My friend is dead. Fuck you for even trying to have this stupid monologue. What are you doing? My friend is gone. She's never coming back. I can't deal with this right now. And Sephiroth's like, talking to me like you have feelings.
Why doesn't Sephiroth attack you? Why?
That's a good question.
Why? I guess he doesn't at this point. Hey, I killed the Ancient. There's no one else who can oppose me. She was the only person who could solve this problem of me taking over the world, and now she's gone. Why should I worry about you?
And also, he can control you. Why does he even need to kill you?
Does he control you, or does Genova control you? Because in that same sequence, Genova says, "You are my puppet." So who's pulling the strings? It's not really clear to me.
That's not. I don't know if that's super clear to me either.
Right.
But someone's pulling the strings.
Someone's pulling the strings. I like the scene where whoever was in your party up to this point, because I had Tifa and Yuffie, and I feel that their emotions.
Same. I had the same part.
If you don't have anyone else, because I decided to kind of replay it, basically everyone else doesn't react. Kate Sith fucks up and tries to make you happy, and then you realize it's pointless, and it kind of ruins the scene if you have Kate Sith in your party. Vincent just
like every scene.
Vincent shrugs it off, and this is the one time where Vincent not showing any emotions feels completely and totally inappropriate. Yuffie and Tifa express emotion.
Yuffie is the best.
Yuffie is the best because they didn't have a lot of resources, and the way she animates is a great use of the resources. Her shoulders shrug up and down with her polygonal sprite to suggest that she's crying.
Yep, and that she's heaving, that it's coming on, and then that same animation plays faster, which makes you understand that she is bawling, and then she heaves a couple more times like she's getting control again, and then she walks off stage, and you're right, that is a
great use of limited
touch.
Resources. If you don't have Tifa and Yuffie in your party, you get it's hot and cold, the emotional responses that you get from your party.
Yeah.
Barrett tries to be the man. Sid just shakes his head. It can kind of, depending on the party that you go in, you can kind of ruin this moment.
Yeah. So play this moment with Yuffie and Tifa. You can survive the Genova fight. All you need to do, equip a water ring on anyone, and then the fight is over. She can't kill you.
But did you really need a boss battle? Did you really need a boss battle during this moment?
I liked the boss battle because they played the theme during it. I enjoyed that.
Did it have to be Genova? I feel like it would have been more appropriate to fight Sephiroth, and then he's like, this is a waste of my time. Peace.
I don't care what the boss was. I think that having a moment where traditional gameplay takes over and the game says, no, this music's playing because this moment is more important. This is the actual importance here. It might be regular gameplay, but you know what? Eris is gone. You need to remember that, and that's the central focus. So I liked it as a kind of tonal shift on traditional gameplay. But yeah, I think that sequence is well done. It still holds up despite the limited resources, the polygons not being great, the graphics being kind of meh, the stilted animations during the full CGI.
Yeah, section. I would say that the art design is also great because you're essentially in the same. I think that the placement of this death in this specific set piece was a great call because you're watching the death of the Cetra? Or, no, not Cetra.
Yeah. Cetra, yep.
Wait, did they use the term Cetra multiple times from 7 and 8?
Yeah, they used it in 7 and 8, yep. Cetra ruins, yep.
Fuck that.
They did.
Whatever. I feel like having her death occur there was another great touch because you're in these decrepit ruins of a forgotten civilization, the Forgotten Capital. It's the namesake of the entire level. So it makes complete sense to have her die there. I question whether or not this should have happened later in the game. I question not explaining why this scene happens more. And again, there is the element of a lack of surprise. I think that the direction is great, but there's like a missing piece to this puzzle, which is understanding and appreciating fully what Eris's death means.
And
I
that's
would
why
never
I think
have that puzzle piece.
Like I said, I didn't really appreciate it the first time I played. I think if you come back to it sometime down the road, I think having the full context of the story, even though you're never going to have the full context of I cared about Eris the whole time and now the rug has been pulled out from under me, just having the context of what she was doing there and why Sephiroth killed her and all of that stuff, I think when you have that greater understanding, you'll come back to this sequence. So I bet by the time we talk next or the time after that, you will have a different opinion.
But yeah, and I think part of this is the game has now attempted twice to make me feel grief with the sacrifice of Cait Sith, which is totally unearned, and I don't understand what... I feel no grief, and with Eris's...
I feel no shame.
Eris's death, I felt a little bit of grief, but not kind of what a lot of people have conveyed to me. I just...
Yeah, and I might just, admittedly, I mean, you did not read my latest Giant Bomb article, correct?
No.
Because you need to not spoil...
I can't. Well, you told me not to read your article because it does, in fact, spoil.
Yes. So you shouldn't read it. But if anyone who's listening has read it, you know that I am in a place right now that maybe I'm a little bit more receptive to someone being taken away from you and never coming back. So that sequence rang a lot more true for me than it did even the first time I played it, just due to circumstances in my life that have changed. So I think that they rendered that sense of hopeless, just some combination of hopelessness and understanding that your life will never be the same once that person's gone, in a way that
I think the game does a great job in creating that sense with Cloud, where Cloud feels like, not only did I fail, not only did I lose control of myself, but I don't even want to do this adventure anymore. He has to be in the very next scene, which is a little bit of a spoiler of Disc 2. There are some parts of Disc 2 that I want to talk about. He basically says, I don't want to, you guys can do this adventure. I don't want to do this anymore.
I'm out.
And they have to convince you, no, let's keep going. Let's keep going. We got to do this. There's a reason.
The planet, dog.
Didn't you just hear that Sephiroth is going to destroy everything? And he's like, okay, guys, seriously, could you stop me if that happens again? I was like, yeah, we promise. Of course, that means he's going to lose control of himself again. They're not actually going to do anything. Why didn't
music make you lose control?
Why didn't they stop him the second time around? Like, why didn't Tifa and Yuffie assess the situation and very clearly notice that, oh shit, he doesn't have any control of himself right now. This is the second time this has happened. The story needs it to happen. The story needs it to happen. And again, it's another part of my criticism of, in order for it to work, you got to just tune out all that stuff out and accept it for what it is. Yep. Just as you would with a lot of movies from Christopher Nolan. Once you turn that part off of your brain that analyzes like the logic, the pathos, the logos, you can enjoy it. I feel like the game does a lot of good stuff conveying the pathos and logos of Cloud. Mm-hmm. I feel for him, for his loss, but as someone who has not actually, and this kind of ties into what you've shared with what your blog or your article was about, I've never felt this loss before, so I can't fully appreciate what Cloud is going through.
Yeah, and I think that might be the difference in how we're reading the scene. Because for me, it's a scene where all of the JRPG trappings, they are trying to happen around you. You have Sephiroth giving his stupid monologue. You have a boss fight. You have Cloud losing his mind. But for that tiny window when she is gone, and after the boss fight is over, when everyone has to reassess and come to grips with what has happened, her passing is the most important thing. Not any of the ramifications of what that means to the larger story, not whatever the fuck is going on with this giant tentacle monster. From the time that she's gone to the time she is put to rest in the weird... I don't know why Cloud can walk in the water, but Aeris falls to the... Who cares? From the time she dies to the time she's put to rest, her passing is the most central thing. And I think that's... In a game that has a lot of tonal problems, let's say, here and there, mm-hmm. I think that's one of the times where it really hits it.
And here's a concern that I just simply, you know me. I like overanalyzing. It's part of the appeal of what I've been doing with the Final Fantasy series. I really do like...
I don't know what the appeal is, but whatever.
I really do enjoy overanalyzing and being the biggest nitpicker in the face of the earth. Mm-hmm. In order for the Aeris' death to really count, the game needs to commit to the idea that the heroes are in the abyss. And there needs to be a reward, essentially the seizing of the sword. Essentially, they gain the ability to defeat the villain. They have to engage in the road backwards. The character must have a resurrection. If they don't have all of those pieces together, seal tight,
not the hero's journey.
Then it's not the hero's journey. And then also, there's no full purpose to the death of Aeris.
I mean, I think you can have it have a full purpose without walking all of the hero's journey steps to a T, but...
No, I'm not saying for a T, but some basic points need to be fulfilled in order for the story to really make good on the fact that we've had this tragedy in the story. And I'm very much concerned that basically the game will shit its pants.
Well, we'll see. So, speaking on that, do you want to... I mean, we go to Icicle Cave.
We did get to Icicle
really
Cave. There's not much to talk about. We both got to...
Do you want to...
Christmas Snowland, which...
Yeah.
Fucking fuck this. Motherfucker. Again, great scene followed up with some kooky anime bullshit. What the fuck?
It's a great question. So maybe we won't talk about the kooky anime bullshit because it's
fucking
stupid.
Goddamn snowboarding? Snowboarding? Fuck that. What?
Fuck that. Fuck Elena like punching you and then whoa 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 whoa. Yes.
What the
game,
fuck?
It is just as bad as Squall getting impaled through the chest and then you're in the prison. Except for the part where Irvine falls down the stairs. That part's
I like the look of the prison. It made sense to put them in a prison, but everything you did there was shit.
And now you're snowboarding.
Now we're snowboarding in this fucking ice planet, and we're gonna be goddamn here for what? Another 5 fucking hours? The snow sequence is long. That's what people told me. You're in the snow goddamn world, while Sephiroth is off burning the goddamn world to the ground. And we're off dicking around in the snow for what? 4 hours? 5 hours?
I'm probably. For you, probably.
Fuck that. The game can never figure out how to be tonally consistent. Its juxtapositions are garbage. It's as if 18 people wrote this game and 18 developers worked with different writers, and they're like, hey, we did this part, it's your turn to do the next part. And it's like, I'm more of a comedy guy, so I'm gonna make a comedy scene. It's like, and then of course, when they do the fucking snowboarding shit, there's no grief, no fucking consistency with Cloud's characterization. I would be okay if he was a mopey teenager right about now. I would be totally okay with a mopey teenager, because they would commit to that, and it makes sense for him to be that.
That is, he should be Squall right now.
The fucking Final Fantasy VII. I think you put it great. You put it great during one of my conversations. So close to greatness, but yet so far from greatness.
Yeah, and that's my problem with it is the combat is good, but it's not revolutionary.
The materia system, for all of the problems that we highlighted, it does lead to you being invested in creating a character with the magic that you have that fits their personality. I'm actually putting Steel with Yuffie and Cover with Deer. I'm actually trying to make these characters fit their personalities. And the materia system allows me to do that. Whereas in the junctioning system, hey, junction water to strength, they're all powerhouses. And it doesn't quite make sense.
I just enjoy it from a...
You get to speedrun the game.
You know how I think Jeff of Giant Bomb fame mentioned how at a certain point should Dota just be a bunch of weird polygonal shapes on like a 3D grid because then it will be the most esports? That is what I see when I see Final Fantasy VIII characters. I see nameless, faceless, emotionless things to plug numbers into to make them go higher. I see the Matrix. I see
there are parts of the game that I like, but then, yeah, we keep talking about it. Random encounter system is shit. It exists for a reason because you could possibly be stuck with a party that needs to grind, but your characters don't fucking level up fast enough. The summons do you have any summons that have more than 1 star?
Yes, I have Chocomog and Shiva. And
I don't got a single goddamn summon with more than 1 star.
But that's fine. You don't need to call... Like, those early summons, other than Chocomog, because sometimes it paralyzes enemies, most of those you don't want to call more than once, because if you call them once in a regular battle, everything's dead. In a boss fight, 800 damage or whatever it does is probably enough for it to have been worth calling it once. You might not need to call it twice or 3 times. You're fine.
I know I'm fine, but I love parts of this game. Of this game. But some parts of this game are fucking broken. So are we moving on to, like, impressions?
Yeah, impressions.
So
I think that's a good impressions.
Where is my impression? So in the very first podcast, I believe I told you I respected Final Fantasy from a distance, but I felt like I could never be a part of the party. I still feel that way. I feel like I can appreciate Final Fantasy for its commitment to its story, albeit it never fully commits to its story. It never fully utilizes its characters to the fullest of their potential. There are some characters that are pointless. Why? Is that really... fucking give me an answer. Was the moment in the Temple of the Ancients the most I'm ever going to get out of Kate Seth?
No.
Oh, okay, yeah. Probably they're going to reveal who's actually controlling him. Okay,
yes.
Got it. Great. That was unearned. There are parts of the story that don't work. It tonally shifts all over the place. But god damn it. When the pieces come together, it's magical. Like, I spent a lot of time criticizing the Eris scene, but you're right. Everything you said is right. It's a great scene. The only reason why I nitpick is because I don't have the full appreciation of what it means. And that frustration is directed on myself and not the game. I appreciate the people who made it. I appreciate the fact that they did something very daring, albeit certainly I bet we could come up with other examples of characters dying during dramatic sequences, but this is the one that's
Final Fantasy IV is characters dying in dramatic sequences the game.
But this is the one that's stuck, and it's stuck for a good reason. For a lot of people, this was their first Final Fantasy game, more so than any other game in the franchise. For a lot of people, this was their first Final Fantasy game. And it is a testament of Final Fantasy VII that there are still people who continue to invest in this franchise because of the memories and because of what they experienced in Final Fantasy VII. And I see that. I appreciate that. I understand that. But what I think that everyone forgets is how much filler and intolerable filler is in this game. And I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm angry, because I want this game to be perfect. And it's not there. It's frustrating how close this game is to essentially being a perfect experience. There are parts of this game that would never have been perfect in 2016. I would have been able to tolerate... we nitpick about the environmental puzzles. Dude, whatever. Environmental puzzles are shitty in a lot of games from the past. When we did our podcast last time with 8 and you played Myst, I love Myst. But there are parts of Myst that are broken. But it still has something to it that you can appreciate. But Myst never had a point of its story to where after someone died, I'm doing a stupid minigame where it's tonally inconsistent going from hot to cold. There's a juxtaposition that doesn't make sense or actually hurts the story and narrative of the game. And again, I'm sorry that I sound angry, but it's frustrating. It's so frustrating how close to greatness this game is.
Yeah, and I feel like once we get past the Icicle Town and all those sequences, I have the feeling we're going to be having a conversation of why didn't all that stuff not exist so that we could just get to this part that's coming up. Or
again,
this part that comes up.
Everyone's warned me. Everyone has warned me that some weird stuff happens. And you know what?
That's fine.
It's fine. But
you're not snowboarding.
And then also, you're not doing goofy stuff in, like, Santa's workshop. Or you're not snowboarding. There's so much to this game.
Hot tricks. You do hot tricks.
There's so much to this game that shouldn't be here. And here's the thing. I don't know why they put in all these minigames.
I don't either.
I don't understand why the game has to transition to a quiet moment to add levity. You know what's interesting about 8 is when it wants to inject levity, it has characters to serve that purpose, not minigames or environments to service the addition of that levity, the need for that levity.
It has characters give lines of dialogue during otherwise dour sequences instead of designing entire sequences for this singular purpose of wacky, zany fun time.
I don't know which one is worse. I don't know which one is better. I don't. And you know what this has convinced me of? It's convinced me that I 100% need to play 9 because I need to play a Final Fantasy game that actually knows how to do all of this shit. that actually knows how to commit to a story that has dramatic moments with added levity where it's needed, with characters that are fully characterized and committed to, that have arcs that are completed. Based off of what you said, I need to play 9 because I need to see all of these pieces actually come together.
Yep. You should play 9.
Nine's the one. I now need to play 9. I can't even bullshit with you anymore. It's like, I got to take a break, blah, blah, blah. No, I need to play 9 because I need to see all of these parts work.
And you know what? I hope that by the end of it, you're not saying I'm a liar. I'm pretty certain that you won't say that because there are sequences in 9 where it's like, okay, this is levity. This is to break up the pacing. But usually it is after something very dramatic has happened and they go, and some time passed. They go, yada yada, stuff happened. And now we're here.
That's lame.
Maybe.
That's
but
lame.
It's like, hey, there's a reason why people are stuck where they are or something, some tone is shifted. And I'm not explaining it because I don't want to spoil stuff for you.
No, I know. And
they try to make it contextually work. They might have an entire sequence that is based on regrowth or rebirth, and it tries to come together in a way that this game, like, there's no good explanation for why Eris dies and then you're snowboarding. There's no connective tissue there. You don't know this environment you're going to. It's not like you have a history with it. It's not like it has a history that matters that much. It's just complete non sequitur. It makes no sense.
It's a non sequitur that kind of soils everything that the game's been building up. And it's happened time and time again. We've been criticizing the game. I don't know what the justification is. I guess they really... I do understand the need to add levity to a story, but
that's not the way you do it.
That's not the way you do it. You also... I don't want to sound angry, because here's the thing. You and I...
But why stop... Like, after you've hit someone with that emotional thing, why stop? Why go the other direction?
Or here's the other thing, and we've mentioned this before. Why does the story stop so often?
Yeah,
why does the story stop repeatedly? Why did the character say, okay, let's take a break? It's like, what are you talking about? There's a guy that's about to destroy the universe and enslave us. Why are we taking a break? Why?
Yep. So my impression...
No, you go ahead.
...is it's a lot better than I remember. Final Fantasy VII is a lot better than I remembered. That era sequence works a lot better than I remembered. I think it's a better game than I gave it credit for throughout the years. However, the elements that we have spoken about, the elements that still I remembered as being bad, drag it down so much that I completely understand where I was coming from years ago when I was like, that game's okay. Because in my head, the highs did not feel as high, and the lows felt ubiquitous. And the lows, I want to say, like, the moments where it's going back and forth and doing all that stuff, it's like after every meaningful sequence. It's constant.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it averaged out to it being not as good as 8. Because right now I'm like, okay, 7 might be better than 8. I've probably given 8 too much credit.
I don't know. I really don't know, because
8. I think the reasons I like 8 still hold up in, like, it's a crazy nightmare fuel thing.
It is. It's when it commits. And the big problem I have with 7 is it doesn't commit to anything fully.
Yeah. I like 8 for the reason I like to play unhinged in Magic: The Gathering. It's a set that is a joke set where all of the cards, the conceit is none of the cards could be made in regular Magic because they break the rules for some reason.
I would agree. I view Final Fantasy VIII as me being a character from Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Exactly.
I can enjoy it, I can riff it, and it's so stupid it's good. And 7, because it does attempt at a more serious story, and its attempts at seriousness are good, I feel like I'm holding back my punches, and I can't have that. Because it's like, God damn it, you just killed off one of your characters. I appreciate your ambition. I appreciate the risk that is. God damn it, I want to sock you in the nose for this bullshit snowboarding sequence. Ugh, Final Fantasy VII.
You're so mad you forgot about the motorcycle
I
sequence.
forgot about the motorcycle sequence, because when you talk to Barrett about how he feels this grief, and you talk to Elmira, motherfuckers. Duh. Yep. Chocobos.
And then...
Then you go to North Coral, and you give me a really good reason to be invested with Barrett, a character that I dismissed earlier. Ooh, game. I hate you.
And then you go to the Gold Saucer, and it's got Chocobo... It's got snowboarding and motorcycles. It's got both of them.
And then it follows it up with another good scene.
It's a weird game.
Ultimately,
so should we...
you need to be able, and I'm going to pose this to you. By the time we finish this, you have to be able to give me an answer to this question. You don't have to give it right now. Whether or not you feel that people like me should actually play Final Fantasy VII out of their own prerogative instead of stupid bets that I get.
History lesson.
Yeah. I see a reason why people would say yes, because there are things and aspects of Final Fantasy VII that they attempted in 1997 that, again, the video game industry is either not engaged in, it's not engaged in that dialogue, it's not engaged in trying to convey those types of emotion, or they are falling flat on their face and making the same mistakes as Final Fantasy VII. And it's really depressing to think that and realize that. But if it's a history lesson, and I feel that people need to play it out of obligation, I am committing those people and damning those people to a lot of bullshit.
We shall see. So we should get to your predictions.
Okay, predictions.
Quick predictions.
Predictions. I believe that the reason why Cloud has no control of his body is that he is some sort of tube baby that is like Sephiroth. He's actually related to Genova. Maybe they cut off a piece of Genova, like a finger, and then put it into the Mako reactor, and then that grew into a person, and that person is Cloud. And essentially, he is one of those robed people, but he made it. He essentially made it, and all those other people in the robes are those that didn't make it. I think that I'm going to be haunted by Eris's ghost. I think that the voice that I've been engaged in... I have two feelings about this. I either think that it's one of the ancients, like Eris's biological mother, or I think that the voice is that guy that they mentioned from Gungaga, who probably was an ancient himself. I'm going to probably go with Eris's mother that died in the earlier sequence. But I still feel like it could be the boyfriend from another life. I feel that... Jesus, man. There's going to be all of these other story elements and all of these other... So let's go down the list. Barrett is pretty much done, right? I think Barrett's done with his characterization.
When you are in prediction mode, I am just going to be sitting here steel-faced.
Tifa, we're going to find out. She's going to be the vessel to find out what actually happened in Nibelheim. We're going to find out. I think this is weird. It's got real big implications. I think Tifa is Cloud's sister. Like Star Wars. Okay?
Okay, you think that, yes.
I don't think we're ever going back to Cosmo Canyon with Red 13. I think we're done. I think we can move on from Red 13 for the rest of the story. We're never going back. I think
We do have his level 4 limit break.
Yeah, we have his level 4 limit break. We've learned everything about the planet breaking apart. We're done. We're done. Sid is clearly going to be able to pilot that rocket ship. Sid is piloting that rocket ship. We're going back. We're going to use that rocket ship to... Fuck, I'll throw a Hail Mary. We're going to fight Jenova in space. And the reason why I say that is that 8 went to space and it hurt my brain, and we're going to do it again. We're going to fight him in space again. We're going to space. Yuffie... Yuffie's an afterthought in the grand scheme of things. My defense to her is just because I kind of like her goofiness more than I liked Selphie's goofiness. And she doesn't fetishize trains. I think we're done with Yuffie. Vincent! He said that his girlfriend Lucretia was Sephiroth's mother. I think that they use her DNA, or they use, like, her eggs, and they impregnate Lucretia's eggs with, like, Genova's blood semen. Even though Genova is a lady titty monster without a head. Her alien semen. Which characters am I forgetting?
I think that's everyone.
Sid,
Kate Sith.
Kate Sith. Kate Sith can go fuck himself. You find out that... Okay, I actually have a pretty good prediction here. I think Kate Sith is piloted by Rufus, because Rufus really does understand what a big threat Sephiroth is, and if Cloud can stop Sephiroth, then it's all good in the hood, G. It's all good in the hood.
You don't think it's Heidegger?
I don't think it's Heidegger. I think that based off of how Rufus has been... They've spent so much time characterizing Rufus.
It's not Palmer. He got hit by a car.
The game has spent so much time characterizing Rufus. I think that he is willing to help support Cloud in some way to help him stop Sephiroth from ruining the planet. And as a result, there's what we call a face turn in wrestling. He starts out as a heel, he turns face, and he becomes a good guy, and Shinra eventually gets turned into just a regular utility company, and you know what would be really cool is if it turned out that the reason why Shinra is evil and trying to take over the world is because they know the ominous threat that Sephiroth poses, and they know that he will eventually unleash the hell that is Jenova, and then they just come forward and saying, look, I understand that you hate Shinra, that you hate what we've been doing to the environment, but these are the stakes. We've been doing this in order to prepare this planet to deal with Jenova. We're very sorry for the environmental costs, but this is the only way that we could do it. We had to pull all of our resources into creating this army, pull all of these resources into creating the Turks. We understand the cost that it made. There are people who are dead, but we did this for a reason. And our justification is it helped prepare us to deal with Jenova. I think that there might be a face turn on Shinra.
All right. So I think those are a lot of predictions. I am not going to say what happens one way or another. I will not acknowledge any of those predictions. We will move on. I think that is everything.
Do you think that my predictions are at least interesting?
They're interesting predictions. I can say that because it does not imply correctness or wrongness. So
okay. So how long is Disc 2? Final reviews.
It's a little bit shorter than Disc 1, I think.
How long did it take you to complete Disc 1?
About 15 hours, I would say. 14, 15 hours.
I want you to guess how long it took me to...
30.
35.
Okay.
I did a Fort Condor mission, but I don't want to talk about that because it was shit.
Well, don't worry. I'm sure you'll have to do more.
Really? Fuck.
Don't worry.
Fuck.
We'll get to Fort Condor.
Fuck.
The game will make sure we get to Fort Condor. Sorry. With that in mind, thank you once again. If you have feedback, if you want to send your own ZombiePie fan fictions, go ahead at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com, or the comment sections, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have a lot of ways you can get in touch. Thank you, Chris ZombiePie Redacted.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
And to you, the listeners, thank you for joining us on this crazy journey.
Why? Why are you supporting our crazy journey?
I don't know, but they like it a lot because a lot of people downloaded the last one. I don't know why. Hands in the air. I don't know.
Oh my god. One of my friends is playing Final Fantasy VIII. This is what you've done to my family and my friends, Gino.
You're welcome.
A friend of mine is playing Final Fantasy VIII.
You're welcome. I regret nothing.
You should regret everything. You're impacting the lives of my family and friends.
I'm hopefully impacting the lives of everyone. I just wrote an entire thing on Final Fantasy IX. That game's 15 years old. Everyone will play these games. Everyone. You should play 9. 8, like, you can take it or leave it, but you play 9. Till next time, thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.
Peace!